Your printer might be a snitch. Harvard rescinds acceptances over some memes. And we like big planes and little sheets. All that and a whole lot more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1783, recorded Tuesday, June 6th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Oars and Alps, powerful skincare made for a guy's active lifestyle. Join thousands of men using Oars and Alps today. Go to oursandalps.com/twit to receive 15% off your first order.
And by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code TNT to save 20% on any Tracker package.
And Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/TNT.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is a show where we tell you everything you need to know about technology. We have a packed show.
Yeah, we do.
I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. Let's get to it.
Let's get started. On Monday, online magazine The Intercept posted a scoop about a cyber attack by Russian military intelligence on VR Systems. They're the makers of electronic voting services and equipment whose products are used in 8 states. The report was based on a highly classified intelligence report that an anonymous source sent to The Intercept. However, The Intercept inadvertently outed its source. Joining us to talk about what went wrong is Patrick Tucker, technology editor for Defense One, a site dedicated to news and analysis of U.S. defense. Welcome back to the show, Patrick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So how much do we know about how the Intercept's source was outed?
Well, we don't know a ton. Most of the clues actually come in the form of the affidavit that Special Agent Justin Garrick filed. It's the arrest warrant request, basically, for the defendant in this case, who has this incredible name Winning, reality Winning. It's you couldn't make it up, but somebody did, and they named that person that, which is also sort of awesome in a way. Winner, excuse me, reality Winner. So in the affidavit, which is importantly dated before the actual article shows up online on The Intercept. It's dated June 3rd. The Intercept talks a little bit about what they did when they received this anonymous dump. They wanted to verify it. And so it looks like happened is one of the reporters whose byline exists on the actual article sent that to the NSA. The NSA, according to the Intercept's reporting, asked for some redaction. So they wanted to block some stuff out. They also asked them not to publish the entire thing. And when the Intercept said that they're going to publish it, then the NSA asked for some redactions. They blocked some things out, probably not as much as the NSA wanted to block out, a little bit more than the Intercept wanted to block out. But in sharing that information, the actual scans of the leaked information with the NSA, the belief by many right now is that that's what actually tipped them off as to the actual copier that produced the documents in question and the printer. So that's one theory. Another one is just that right now the intelligence community and anybody that does any contracting work with the intelligence community is constantly subject to what's called continuous evaluation. So that's a part of an executive order that President Obama signed in 2011, long before Edward Snowden. It was actually kind of in response to then Bradley and now Chelsea Manning's leak. So it's Executive Order 13587, and it mandates that the entire intelligence community set up a big insider threat task force. And as one of the steps that the task force had to undertake was rolling out first within the intelligence community, and then within the Defense Department as a whole, and then pretty much anybody that does any contracting with them, a way to continuously evaluate anybody that has access to top secret information to see if they're emerging as an insider threat. So the bottom line is there's lots of different ways that the NSA or the FBI could have deduced that this is the person that leaked this stuff to the Intercept. But if you look at the actual affidavit, what Garrick makes clear is that he called Winner after she had given this stuff to the Intercept, but before the Intercept published it. And they had a conversation where, according to Garrick, she basically confesses everything. And so I'm not sure how the Intercept wouldn't have known that, but again, it was a kind of anonymous leak that was given to them. Either way, it looks like that by giving that information to the NSA to vet that it was accurate, to vet that the NSA had actually lost something of value, they inadvertently either informed the authorities that Winner had used a very particular printer, or just added one extra clue that they needed to really develop a full picture of what she had done. But how they go about figuring out the actual printer on the basis of scanned pages, that's what's really fascinating too, if that's in fact what happened. And we're not entirely sure, but that's what a lot of folks were talking about today.
So is anyone faulting the Intercept for vetting it with the NSA? I mean, isn't that something that as a journalist you would need to do to confirm its accuracy?
Yeah, well, you would want things, you would clearly want, before a major outlet publishes an article saying this stuff was stolen from the NSA and here's what it says, you would want them to verify to some extent, that, or at least reach out to the NSA for comment. But the question is whether or not the Intercept, as the kind of cardinal online outlet of leaked information, should have known that the material that they had, in the way that they gave it to the NSA to verify, rather than just the content actually showing them scanned pages, that posed a security risk for the leaker. And whether or not that was the method that the FBI used to actually track down Miss Winner, the fact that they posted it online, by Tuesday morning, everybody and his uncle had taken a look at the actual scanned pages and reached the same conclusion. There's this process called steganography, which it's a term that refers to the hiding of pictures within pictures. It's Greek. It means covered, steganos. So stegosaurus is a dinosaur covered in plates. Steganography is to cover a picture with a picture. So common types of modern laser printers, in this case, they think it was probably Xerox. What they do is, if it's a color printout, there's these little invisible to the naked eye dots that occur in a matrix. And that matrix, depending on where those dots are, it's kind of like old, how would you put it? Like those old plug-in punch cards that people used to use as like data storage before there were actual, random access memory, those old punch card things. It sort of looks like that. You can, with that, know the actual serial number, the actual time that a document was printed, and that's all available in this particular document, at very least the one that the Intercept actually published online. So by the time Monday at 7 o'clock happens, they have posted a series of documents that the entire world is looking at, and buried in those documents is the model number 54, the serial number, which is a long 7-digit serial number, and the actual time of printing, which was May 9th, 2017, 6:20 p.m. All of that is available, and that's pretty easy to take that information and then connect that to a particular person at a particular place using a particular printer to do something that they wouldn't normally do. But also, this isn't the sort of thing that the FBI or any insider threat detection task force would rely on solely. There's also a lot of behavioral things you might look at. There's also a lot of personal life things you might look at. Insider threat detection is actually based around this idea of getting a really full view of someone's life and using that to anticipate behavior like the behavior that you saw, where they stole information and then they published it to the Intercept, which the NSA and the FBI argues really hurt national security. That's a little bit more debatable, but we'll have that debate going forward.
Yeah, and it sounds like there were obviously multiple indicators. Also, just the fact that as you said, the dots in combination with the information that the NSA has on their end as far as who prints out what, who has access to what document at what time, at what point in a timeline did anyone print these documents. They had a very small selection, from what I read, of people who ever actually printed it out, and only one person that actually had the Intercept in their email roll, and that was, of course, the person who they arrested here.
The winner.
The winner.
The winner, yeah, unfortunately. Although I'm pretty sure she would not consider herself a winner. But
sometimes you don't want to win what you win. But there were about 6 people that printed it out. But the thing was that she did not have a need-to-know basis for printing out that document too. So that's something that's actually in the affidavit, is that she's a sort of unusual person to want to print that. And that's one of the key insider threat indicators, is attempting to access information that you wouldn't use as part of your job. That's something that now across the intelligence community and contractors, they monitor really closely.
So the printer dots, is that for all of are we all being tracked by our printer dots? Could
Dotified.
Any printer, like my little printer at home, or is this just NSA printers?
No, it's pretty common to modern printers. This particular printer is not an unusual printer. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has a running list of printers that they say don't have this feature. And having said that, the different deals that the National Security Agency reaches with different vendors are going to be kind of beyond the clear scope of all of us for a little while. So that list might be not entirely correct either. If you are worried about this, if you're worried about what sort of weird little bits of metadata you're leaking through by posting colored printer pages online, you can scan something in black and white, or better yet, just transfer the content manually by recreating the actual characters in a typesheet somewhere else. And so it doesn't look like the original document, but all the original content is there. And kind of ask everybody, hey, you have to trust me here. I'm not going to go ahead and recreate this document, even if I have scanned it in black and white, even if I have printed it on a black and white printer too. Don't color print anything, because that's going to be if you're using a laser color printer, then it very well could have some steganographic content in it that you wouldn't be aware of and that you would never use. It's also pretty common in money, in actual currency. And this is something that one blog post that actually discovered this early on, that a connection that they made to John McAfee, the sort of crazy cybersecurity researcher behind McAfee software, and some of his strange adventures. He was using bills that had these little tiny, sort of almost invisible numbers in them that we now print into currency so that you can trace money, which is also kind of weird when you think about it. But you really have to commend the folks that actually figured all of this out. It's a great blog at Errata Security, run by 2 fellows, Robert Graham and David Maynor. So you can check out what they discovered and put up kind of before a lot of other people did. But you can also just check out the weird documents that the Intercept posted, and you can find the strange yellow dots in them if you look, if you know how to look at them. And at the Errata blog, they give you a little manual on how to do that. And then you can go ahead and start printing stuff out on your own and see what your own dot matrix printer tells the world about you, which is kind of a weird, fun thing to do if you've got the time for it. But it really just goes to this problem that's a very modern problem that's not going away, and that's we create little bits of information all the time in all of our interactions with little devices, and we have only the vaguest sense of what they are. But this is part of our communication with the world. It's just the aspect of it that we're unaware of.
And of course, the Intercept was the same online magazine that got contacted by Edward Snowden and posted all of his leaks. But there wasn't. I mean, they did everything right on their side during those leaks, or was it that he was more careful?
Well, it wasn't the Intercept wasn't founded yet, but the founder of the Intercept was Glenn Greenwald, and Glenn Greenwald was the guy that Edward Snowden contacted. So the Intercept was what Glenn Greenwald did with all of his fame after he was Edward Snowden's guy. And the entire premise, the entire basis of the site, I know folks that work there, some very good reporters, some less good reporters, but also some very good reporters that work there. The entire premise of the site is we're the site you go to leak your stuff. We are the Intercept. So, information that is passing from one place to another about the entire world that's of public value, we are the place where that information gets intercepted. So it is actually kind of mystifying, bordering on inexcusable, that they wouldn't know that this information, this meta information, existed in the documents that they were throwing up online, because regardless of what role that information played in the actual arrest warrant, they certainly did out this printer. They certainly did give away a lot of information about their source that they didn't intend to. Is kind of a Bush League error. And I don't know, a lot of folks are sort of scratching their heads going, come on, Intercept. I mean, how do you get this big scoop and blow it like this? It's kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm. So they might be the fall guy for this. Like you said, she may have been arrested or, caught before, but they did do wrong as well.
Yeah. No, this was an error. This was a Bush League error. We're not going to be sure what role that actually played until there's some sort of trial and it becomes part of a public record, because this is, potentially sources and methods, and at the very least, the FBI, who are great at not talking, this isn't the sort of thing that they would necessarily reveal to the public, how they went about deducing that this was the person. At some point when there is an actual trial or legal processes get underway beyond just the arrest warrant, then that stuff might come out, and they might be a little bit more forthcoming with it now. Having said that, the actual content of the dump is fascinating. All of this information about how the Kremlin-backed hackers were targeting very specific vendors in very specific states. The same spear phishing activity that we've been seeing in the United States, aimed at the DNC, also France, also Montenegro, Germany. Like this is a classic kind of Kremlin play, and a lot of people were alarmed and very worried about the prospect that the Kremlin was going to attempt to change information contained in voter rolls, not just steal information and publish it online, but manipulate it in a way that would undermine the voting process. And there's some indication that at the very least they were attempting to do that in this case. And the arrest warrant makes clear that it's legitimate. This is a legitimate bunch of information that was taken from the NSA and given freely to the world. And so it's probably accurate. And that's pretty jarring.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for explaining all of this. It's fascinating, and I hope it doesn't get buried under what you just mentioned, the leak itself and what we can learn from that about our election. Patrick Tucker is the technology editor at Defense One. You can find his work at defense1.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, have a great night. All right, AMP, just a few more news stories before we head on. Apple announced something during yesterday's WWDC keynote that caught my attention after the fact. It could be the predecessor for an Apple-branded AR or VR goggle somewhere in the future. ARKit is a new tool for developers that enables what Apple calls world tracing, that uses the iPhone or the iPad's camera and motion sensors to actually map a user's environment and can use that map to pin objects to points within it. So, for example, there's an upcoming Ikea app that will use the platform to allow users to do things like virtually place Ikea furniture in their room to scale prior to purchase to kind of try things out. A lot of this really, sounds very familiar. We've talked about Project Tango, which is Google's effort, which is very similar to this. Tango requires additional hardware in order to do that. More hardware around depth sensing and stuff like that. So on one hand, this has the potential to be very strong because it would just be iPhones and iPads would be able to do it. On the other hand, Tango is more accurate, can create a three-dimensional kind of map of a room, whereas the iPhone, iPad version of it, ARKit, couldn't necessarily do that, so less accuracy. But very interesting to see Apple taking this aspect seriously, and at least giving developers the tools to kind of play around with this. And maybe this is the kind of the calm before their efforts in this regard in some form of hardware.
Well, and also in some ways, I mean, they could just stop at this effort, right? Because what they said in the keynote yesterday was once ARKit is launched, that becomes the largest augmented reality platform in the world, just by virtue of how many iPhones people have, you know, because like you said, like the Tango needs additional hardware and you can get these phones, but you know, who will buy this phone just for Tango? It had to be a very specific use case. But I mean, here we are with, you know, it's like a Trojan horse. We've already got we all have our iPhones. Everyone in the entire world, besides you, Jason Howell, has an iPhone.
Me and a few other many millions upon millions of people. But yes, your point is taken.
But when you think about it, you know, just the fact that they, you know, that they corner the market, I mean, that they have this, that's it's their hardware, that they're the largest, you know, platform once it's launched. And I do think that smartphone AR is going to be the future. It's not. We're not all going to be wearing HoloLenses.
Yeah, that's kind of my guess as well. Also, you know, keep in mind that the iPhone, what is it, the 7 Plus has the dual camera array. The smaller one does not, right? It's just a single camera on the smaller one. And that dual camera, you know, on a dual camera phone, that's an extra layer. That's an extra kind of sense of depth, being able to tell the difference of depth between one camera and another. So that improves the accuracy as well. So maybe there's a time where all iPhones, all iDevices have the dual camera functionality, and then that expands it even further. So I'm curious to see what developers come up with.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, you know, VR has a lot of limitations. You know, it has space limitations, it has, you know, hardware limitations. And I just think that we will be living in a world where we're all pointing our smartphones at things to see what they are.
Instead of a magnifying glass, be like,
instead of, you know, asking Siri or each other or anything, like instead of, it's just going to be an extension. I mean, already our smartphones are an extension of our body. And I do think it's just going to be, you know, who's this? What's that? How can I get here? Where's this found?
Who are you?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
hey, Megan.
All the things in our brain are going to be out in the device in front of us. Sad. And we'll be riding around in self-driving cars.
Apparently.
And if you hail a Lyft in Boston, you might already be riding around in a self-driving car. Instead of developing its own in-house autonomous car system, Lyft has partnered with NuTonomy, a company that has had a fleet of self-driving cars on the roads in Singapore since last fall. For its part, Singapore regulators are encouraging self-driving cars in order to reduce congestion on the roads. NuTonomy grew out of MIT and now has locations in Singapore and Boston. According to Recode, the deal between the two companies includes no financial exchange right now, just research for both in how customers manage the self-driving taxi experience. In a press call, the Lyft CEO says he believes that in just a few decades, over 80% of all automobile miles traveled will be done so in a self-driving car. And for now, the autonomous Lyfts will be electric Renaults.
Renault. There's also Peugeot, which is another partnership that NuTonomy is doing autonomous vehicle testing in Singapore. They have a partnership there as well. This really kind of goes to show Lyft's approach in this realm, and we've heard about it and we talked about it on the show in the past, how some are going into autonomous vehicles with the idea that we're going to create the technology and we're going to dominate because we own the technology and whatever. Lyft is really taking the approach of, we've got a network and we want to pull people in who have the technology and expand, you know, and make it a win-win for everybody that's involved. We give you a network to test and you know, implement your technology on. We get your technology to spread our coverage even further and see what other markets we can bring it to, because that is one thing that Lyft really needs to do. It needs to increase its support. It's limited when you compare it to a company like Uber that's worldwide.
And they've been making deals with GM. They have a deal with Google's Waymo. So I think this is really interesting because it'll get people used to, like, being in a car without a driver. There's going to be a console that will have Lyft's app there, and you can, you know, it'll teach you about how the car works. I could not figure out if there was going to be a safety driver in there. I assume there will be, because I don't think any state has any laws that say a car can really be, an autonomous car can be on the roads without a safety person in the car. So I don't know. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, very, very cool, though. Very interesting. Quick reminder that you can comment on anything that we discuss by emailing us. It's tnt@twit.tv. We've been getting a lot of feedback, so hopefully someday this week we'll get a bunch of your feedback in there. You can also subscribe to Tech News Today. Go to our show page at twit.tv/TNT. Hey, maybe you already did that, but if you didn't, there you go. Coming up, a big breakthrough in silicon technology thanks to IBM and Samsung. But first, let's take a minute to thank Oars and Alps. They're the sponsor of this episode of Tech News Today. And that's right, I have the box of Oars and Alps right here. All sorts of good stuff. I went to the gym before coming into work today. I had my Oars and Alps products in my bag. It didn't spill, and that's kind of part of what makes this product awesome, aside from the fact that it's really good for your skin. GQ calls Oars and Alps a new essential for your daily routine. It's powerful skincare made for a guy's dehydrated skin and active lifestyle. You've got the face cleansing stick, of course, the first men's solid face wash. And you can see it right there. It's a little container. It's spill-proof, activated charcoal. You just kind of put it on your face all over. It gently exfoliates. It pulls out impurities. You just splash your face with water, and you're good to go. And then we've got the 2-in-1 hydrating and anti-aging face and eye cream. Which is, great. You might not be using an eye cream, but you might wonder what to do. Well, here you go. You've got Oars and Alps product to do it. It's not greasy. It's fast absorbing. And again, you can just kind of pack it in your bag and go. It's not going to spill on the way. And then, of course, we all need a little deodorant. Here you go. No nonsense natural deodorant, which nourishes your skin and absorbs odor. Everything is super portable. It's TSA approved, made with powerful and natural ingredients that offer intense hydration. Products last up to 3 months. And Oars and Alps products were actually developed by 2 women, Laura and Mia, for their husbands, because their husbands weren't doing a good job of taking care of their own skin, apparently. They partnered with leading chemists and created Oars and Alps to protect their husband's skin from extreme outdoor conditions that often resulted in dry, cracked skin. They knew what they were doing. Laura and Mia also set out to solve a common problem, spilled product in gym bags. Like I said, I throw this stuff in my bag. I never have to worry. That's why they created the solid face wash for men. It won't spill. Products are perfect to take on the go, anywhere you happen to be going, wherever your adventure is. The name, of course, inspired by oars as in rowing, Alps as in skiing. It's their husband's favorite outdoor activities, but you can use it wherever you go. Your skincare should keep up with your on-the-go lifestyle, and that's what it's all about. And, of course, Father's Day is right around the corner, so here's a great gift idea if you're looking for something unique. Oars and Alps. Oars and Alps is offering the Twit audience a fresh start to your day. Join the thousands of guys using Oars and Alps today. Visit oursandalps.com/twit. You're going to receive 15% off your first order. That's Oars and Alps, OARSANDALPS.com/twit. And we thank Oars and Alps for their support. Back in 2014, IBM announced a $3 billion 5-year investment in chip R&D, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of that labor and that investment. Joining us to discuss this effort is Stephen Shanklin from CNET. Welcome back, Stephen.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. It's always great to get you on. We appreciate it. First, okay, so 14 nanometer technology, pretty common right now in modern smartphones, laptops. When we jumped from 22 nanometers to 14 nanometers, what did we as users see, whether we realized what we were seeing or not? What was the net effect?
The net effect of each of these transitions you see in microprocessor manufacturing is usually a little bit more capability in your chip. The way it shows up mostly is better graphics right now. So a chip is made out of billions of transistors. These are little tiny on-off switches, and they turn on and off, and electricity flows or stops. And the more of those transistors you can pack onto one chip, the more you can do. Each time these transistors get shrunk down through one of these manufacturing improvements, you can fit more of them onto a chip. That means you can do more with the chip. So that means you can put much better graphics on your smartphone, for example. So that's what happens when these chips get shrunk down each generation. Ideally, there's some other benefits that come along, like lower power consumption, which is huge for anybody who's running on a battery with a laptop or a phone. Obviously, that's all of us nowadays. Mm-hmm. But even if you're not, it's good to have a lower power consumption. So there are other ancillary benefits that come along, but the big ones are power, performance, and just the ability to use more transistors to do more stuff.
Nice. All right. So IBM, so basically the news here is that IBM, Samsung, Global Foundries announced what they say a breakthrough that's going to, for the first time, enable 5 nanometer transistors. Explain how is this achieved exactly?
Okay, well, just to put this in the arc of history, so to speak. I mean, so today we're at 14 nanometers. Intel's 10 nanometer manufacturing process chips will come out later this year. The next, they call it a node. The next node in this march of progress are 7 nanometer chips, and after that come 5 nanometer chips. Each time you go down one of these steps, you can squeeze twice the number of transistors onto a chip. But that's really hard to do. I mean, these things are getting to be just atoms across. I mean, it's really an amazing feat of miniaturization. So to describe exactly what they're doing, it's kind of tricky, but you have to bear with me for a second. So you have to imagine what a transistor is. Like I say, it's an on-off switch for electricity to flow. In the old days, you'd have a little channel where electricity would flow, go from a source side to a drain side. And there's a thing on top. They just plonk it right on top called a gate. And when the gate determined whether the electricity flowed or not. Well, you need a lot of contact between the channel and the gate. As they got smaller, that contact became hard to do. So what they did a few years ago, Intel pioneered this, were fin shapes. So instead of having the gate perched on top of a flat channel, they wrap it around like this. That's called FinFET. And what we have this time around with Samsung and IBM and Global Foundries is instead of having it just flopped on top like that, they have the channel is it's like a wire, and it wraps all the way around it. And then they have a bunch of these little wires all going in parallel. So basically they found a way to make the channels smaller, but to keep enough contact between the channels and the gate. So it's really remarkable technology. They call it nanosheets.
So those of us rooting for Moore's Law, is this good news or bad news?
This is terrific news for Moore's Law. So the problem with Moore's Law is this steady cadence we've seen for literally decades. It's named after Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel, that every 2 years you double the number of transistors on a chip. Okay, that's great, but it turns out that the manufacturing is getting so hard these days, the new R&D is getting so hard that Moore's Law has been slowing down. Each time you get one of these ticks on the Moore's Law clock, then you get these smaller chips, and you get other benefits potentially like faster performance, lower power consumption. So as Moore's Law has slowed down, some of these benefits have slowed down too. That makes it harder to make your smartphone powerful. Look, here's my non-smartwatch, right? So all these miniaturization becomes a lot harder. And there used to be, a decade or 2 decades ago, you'd see each new year the next PC that would come out would be dramatically more powerful. That's kind of petered out. So as Moore's Law has slowed down, that steady march of progress has slowed down. So each time somebody comes up with a new way to move into the next generation of manufacturing, it means we keep that alive for another year. Intel thinks we got about another 10 years in Moore's Law right now. And that might be optimistic. That might be actually a little pessimistic. Moore's Law has been in trouble for pretty much its entire existence, but the microprocessor business just keeps on ticking. People keep on finding a way to move it forward year after year.
Yeah, I'm sure they will continue to. But I mean, at some point, it becomes impossible to miniaturize any further. I have to imagine, anyways, or maybe we haven't. Maybe we will always find a way. But what comes beyond kind of this modern approach to this? Is it quantum computing, or what comes next?
Yeah, things get crazy. So there are still a lot of improvements that are coming. One of the problems with improvements to the existing manufacturing processes is they get a lot more expensive. So maybe you can make a chip with really small transistors, but maybe it costs a lot more. Nobody wants a $3,000 smartphone, right? So progress might be prohibitively expensive. But after Moore's Law peters out, then yeah, all bets are off. There's some crazy ideas like spintronics, which uses quantum mechanical properties called spin instead of electrical flow. That's one possibility that could provide new direction. Another one is, as you mentioned, quantum computing. That's really crazy stuff. That's another, those are completely different architecture of computing. And I think there's a lot of excitement right now around quantum computing, but there's a big tricky problem, which is they're good for some categories of computing problems. In fact, really good for some categories, but they're also not very good for a whole lot of other categories. So it's really not clear what's going to come next after Moore's law peters out, and we can't just keep on shrinking the standard transistor.
Yeah, right. So as far as this this form of progress, though, I mean, it takes some time to turn this around for people to actually find it in their devices. You know, you mentioned, what is it? 10 nanometers is the next step, and we're only just starting to kind of get to the point to where maybe that's going to start hitting devices. About how long until this 5 nanometer technology starts getting used by normal people?
Well, IBM is not giving you a specific date, which is not surprising because it's very complicated. It's complicated to develop these new manufacturing processes, but it's really complicated to move them into production so that you're making millions or billions of chips with them. So, of course, nobody's promising anything. It certainly will be years. My guess is 4 years is on the optimistic side. So it'll be a little while yet before this is actually in your smartphone.
When will I be sleeping on Nanosheets, and will they be comfortable?
You wouldn't even notice them. They are Nanosheets are atoms thick. So you would your little slumbering breaths would blow them off.
I think that's the answer we were all looking for to a question I never thought I'd hear. It's awesome. Stephen Shanklin with CNET. Always a pleasure getting you on. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
CNET.com. And follow Stephen there. We'll talk to you soon, Stephen.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Up next, another reason to warn your kids to be careful what they post online. Matt Curtis from This Week in Law tells us the legality behind Harvard's decision to cancel the acceptance of students after they shared obscene memes in a secret Facebook chat. But first, let's take a minute to thank Tracker, the sponsor of this episode. Life is supposed to be a journey of discovery, nanosheets and the like. But how much of it do you waste trying to discover where you left your keys? You will never worry about losing your things again thanks to Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone. Simply place a Tracker device on whatever you tend to lose: keys, wallets, bags, pets. Use the Tracker app to find it in just seconds. Track up to 10 devices at once on your phone. You can even track and ring the same device from several different phones and different Tracker accounts. And you can customize two-way separation alerts so you're notified before you leave your item behind. What if you lose your phone? Just press the button on your Tracker device, or you can ask your Amazon Echo and your phone will ring even if it's on silent. If you need more help, the new Tracker Pixel comes with powerful LED lights so you can find your items in a flash. It's available in fun seasonal colors, and there are 4.5 million devices shipped. That means Tracker has the largest crowd locate network in the world, so you can find your item even if it's miles away. Try Tracker today with our 30-day money-back guarantee. Find what you've been missing. Go to thetracker.com, enter promo code TNT to save 20% on any Tracker package. That's THETRACKR.com, promo code TNT to save 20% on any Tracker package. Earlier this week, news broke that Harvard had rescinded the acceptances of 10 students after it was discovered that they had been posting racially charged memes in a secret Facebook chat. The chat had spun off from a Harvard-sponsored group that was intended to encourage new students to meet one another. According to the Harvard Crimson, in order to join the chat, you had to post an offensive meme. Joining us to talk about the legality of Harvard's decision is one of the co-hosts of This Week in Law here on Twit, Matthew Curtis. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So the school allegedly started investigating the group back in April, and they found that they were sharing jokes about sexual assault, the Holocaust, death of children, just the worst. Now, first, let's address the question of free speech. Would you say that these memes are protected under the First Amendment?
No, they are not protected, not because hate speech or speech that is offensive is not protected under the First Amendment, but because Harvard is a private university. If this was in a public university, the analysis would be much different. As it is a private university, the question is, what is the contractual language in which they have engaged with Harvard?
So how is student speech protected on Facebook?
Student speech, in terms of like a protection to be able to publish it, is primarily protected in the same way as all other speeches on Facebook. It's the terms of use. So like any of us, Facebook specifically prohibits speech that is directly harmful, including hate speech. They say they engage in rigorous analysis in that. That is Facebook employees who are making these decisions. And I couldn't find a case on point that talked about that being challenged. It seems like people who are kicked off Facebook for that simply create another account, usually.
So would it be different if I walked through the quad at Facebook holding up like a picture of one of these memes versus posting it on Facebook?
No, it really goes back again to the private or public space. If you were in a public university and you held up a poster or something of this, it would most likely be protected, and the analysis would be the same whether it was on a poster or it was on your Facebook account.
What about kind of Harvard's bigger kind of rules around this? Obviously, this seemed to center around admission. These were students that were accepted but hadn't quite integrated into the school system yet. And as a result, based on this stuff that was in the contract, discovery of this allowed Harvard to kind of break off those ties. Would that same punishment, let's say, be applied to students who had integrated into the school and something like this was discovered? Is it built in to protect on both sides?
I wasn't able to get a Harvard contract or student agreement, but almost all student agreements have different agreements for before you come to school, and then you are bound by the student code. At Notre Dame, we have the Hoynes codes, which is an elaborate list which we have to go through and check boxes on. We won't do this. We will do this. So although there's no constitutional right that's added by being a student, there are there are processes that colleges are regularly implementing so they make sure they get this right. And it seems like Harvard did vet this pretty extensively, but I think it would have come out differently if they were students.
Yeah, I mean, they said that they don't publicly comment on admission status of individuals, so we don't really know. I mean, what it seems from the Harvard Crimson article is that they got word of this private chat. I mean, the way it was a larger group. Hey, freshmen, you guys all meet each other, and then there was, people starting their own private group saying, like, let's start a group of people who like funny political memes. And then it was another group where you had to submit an offensive meme in order to get into the group, which sort of then, implicates everyone in the group. It sort of sounds to me like any kind of fraternity rush that you see on many colleges. Mm-hmm. But so then they then asked, when they found out about it, they asked people to turn it over. And it sounds like everyone who turned it over, everyone who had posted the memes turned them over. Yeah.
I'm sure that there was a stick behind that ask. I'm sure it was turn this over or we are definitely not going to let you come. And people, you probably turned it in and hope for the best. It seems like because there was only 10 people, it probably wasn't everyone who was in the group, but probably people who had posted specific things. That is just a guess, though. Based on the fact that I just would assume that in an incoming Harvard class, there would be more people who would look at this stuff or be in the group to look at this stuff. But I can't say for certain.
So they couldn't ask, like anyone can ask for anyone to say, turn over what you just posted on Facebook. And in this case, like you said, it's a very specific agreement. Like, we're not going to let you come to our college, and they're a private university, so they're allowed to do that. But the average person, like if I apply for a job, is my employer allowed to say, like, hey, can you turn over what you posted in those private Facebook chats?
So employment gives you many more protections than a university will. This is just historical reasons, mostly because we've been fighting over what are the invasion of privacy between employers and whatnot, and so that's generally a state-by-state matter. I'm assuming that California regulations in terms of what you can give or what you can ask for are higher than other states. And likewise, California does have a case where it actually incorporated the First Amendment, I believe, through the Leonard Law, and so they were able to sue, bring a First Amendment challenge to a specific content violation at a university in California in 1995. That's the only case on point where that's been done. And so even though California adopted that, it doesn't seem like other states were willing to follow.
No doubt, the contents of this stuff is pretty reprehensible and disgusting in many ways. What is the difference between posting this sort of stuff to a private Facebook group and then getting cracked down on it versus, say, an SMS message with somebody else? And would the line ever extend out further than this? Because if it's a private group, people might say, well, it's a private group. It's not public facing. Sure, there are a number of people in here, but it was never meant to be beyond just these people. And how is that different than like a group text message thread where this would exist?
So that's something that not in the private school context, but in the public school, specifically in high school kids, we've seen recently the courts really struggle with this: is what's private and what's public, and there's a circuit split over that. And some circuits look at what's the intent of the sender, and some circuits look at what's the reasonable expectation that it would reach the school. Ultimately, these are fact by fact analysis that the court has to engage in order to reach this. And I think you're right. It's a really hard line to look at. But generally, if you're posting on Facebook, even to friends, you have the reasonable expectation that can be someone can take a screenshot, that someone can, any number of things. I think that there's valid argument that this shouldn't be that way, and we should have stronger privacy rights in general. Unfortunately, we don't, and so I think that the best argument would be something that encrypts your data and then destroys it and doesn't allow the other people to take pictures. That's kind of an annoying fact of modern life.
Mm-hmm. And of course, with Facebook also, separate from this, if it's violent or if you're threatening someone's life, was that at issue here in any of these posts?
It doesn't seem so. And the copyright law actually provides a disincentive for Facebook to go and look at these things. So part of getting DMCA protection, which is where you send in, if someone's violated your copyright, you send in a DMCA notification, they have to take it down. Part of that is that the specific providers, the Facebooks, the YouTubes, say they can't watch all of the information. And so the more that they watch for hate speech or violent speech or any kind of speech, the more they fall into being responsible for any copyright violations. So it's a tension in the law right now that has yet to be resolved.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for explaining all of these details to us. Matt Curtis is a law student at Notre Dame, and you can watch him on This Week in Law on the Twit Network. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks. Anytime.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Chad writes, I heard many people say yesterday, including on TNT, and that person was me, that Apple was the third company to enter the speaker market. Actually, would they not be the fourth? Several companies have announced Cortana speakers. Top of the list is the Harman Kardon Invoke speaker. It is coming in the fall before Apple's. And going back a little way, we could even mention the HP Pavilion Wave. For nearly the same price as an Apple speaker, you could get a full PC in speaker form. I apologize, Microsoft. I'm sorry.
It's easy to fall into that, though, when you think about the major players. Harman Kardon, obviously not out yet, so it was easy for me to forget. Also, Essential. We talked about Essential last week, and that's Andy Rubin's new company.
Oh, right.
And they have the Essential Home. So there are a lot of companies working on this. But when you think of the real major players, like the ones that the majority of people have, it's Echo, it's Home, and it's probably going to be the Home Hub.
Right. And also, I think it was Microsoft themselves didn't say, here's this, home speaker. It was sort of a Cortana Cortana Harman Kardon. It was like a deal with Harman Kardon. So I felt like that was a little bit different. Although we probably, a lot of us were expecting maybe like Apple would have a deal with Sonos, that would be, and I think we would have seen that coming from Apple. But good point. Mm-hmm. Hey, Cortana, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Cortana. And we'll wait for Cortana to answer us because Cortana can talk to us. We just didn't wake her up. Sorry. Coming up, only the biggest plane in the world. That's all. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage, the sponsor of this episode. The mortgage experience wasn't keeping up with the times. It was dated. It needed a client-focused technological revolution, and that's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence that you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. You might need that extra confidence, so you're going to get it with Rocket Mortgage. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all of the details and be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. You're going to know everything up front, and they make it really easy for you to understand what you're dealing with. It's convenient. Their trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button because it's online, it's digital, it's the way you live your life. It's powerful. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th, Rocket Mortgage is able to perform thousands of calculations in seconds, and you'll be up to date with all of your options. Based on your income, assets, and credit, Rocket Mortgage can analyze all of the home loan options for which you qualify and then help you find the one that's just right for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/TNT. That's rocketmortgage.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support of Tech News Today.
TNT's fan of the day is that guy Ed on Twitter who said, well, hey, at Megan Maroney and Nate OG talked just enough at the WWDC 17 live coverage on Twit Live. Thank you, that guy Ed. So Nate and I were having a discussion because those keynotes are tough. You got to sneak in your comments right at the right time. If you're talking about Apple, you're either too negative or you're sheeple. You can never get it right. So before the show, I said live to Nate, no one's going to email you and say you talked just enough. And of course, I said that. And thank you to everyone who emailed and said we talked just enough or tweeted it. There were many of you, and we appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I was fishing for compliments, I'll admit it. But it's nice. Sometimes you just hear from cranky people. And we love to hear from cranky people. And the rest of you too.
And the rest of you too. Yes, choosing when to talk and not to talk and when to go to like an ad break if there's an ad is really hard on those things. It was it the Google? No, it was the Samsung announcement a couple of months ago. And I decided to take the ad break as they were transitioning on stage. Of course, that was right when they were going to the person that was going to tell you how much it cost and when it was available. It's not easy to pick the right time to talk on those shows, but I think you guys did a great job.
I think I chose the time they were talking about the notification center. So now many of you are never going to know how the notification center will be. I don't know. I don't even know.
See?
I won't either.
You were talking just enough.
Yeah. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT and we will find it.
All right. If you like big planes and you cannot lie, then you might be interested in the work of Vulcan Aerospace. I got a facepalm out of Burke. That's an achievement right there. Vulcan Aerospace is Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen's launch company. And here you can see the massive, the largest airplane in the world, which is dubbed the Stratolaunch airplane. It has a 385-foot wingspan, 6 Pratt & Whitney engines found on Boeing 747 aircraft, 1.3 million pounds of takeoff weight, and a wingspan did I already say that? 385 feet?
Say it again. It's so big. You got to say it again.
385 feet of wingspan. Just take that in. That's why it's in there twice. The goal for this is to be a platform that can be used to stage air launch space missions from. And Paul Allen is looking to do kind of something similar to Elon Musk with SpaceX, which is and I think they're all kind of going in this direction, tackle reusability, lower the cost of space travel and missions as a result of reusability. So you'd launch this up. You could then send off satellites from this vehicle or from this aircraft up to 1,000 pounds into low Earth orbit, capable of delivering payloads to a bunch of different orbits in one go. Pretty cool stuff.
So Paul Allen owned Tech TV. I hope this turns out better than that did for everyone involved. I do not. I don't love that you made the reference to I like big butts reference to plane, but I do like big planes.
See?
I like all planes.
I didn't reference big butts. I referenced big planes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you didn't mean that.
It was a strange coincidence.
Okay. Well, I cannot lie. I like big planes. I like all planes. I visited the Pacific Coast Air Museum in Santa Rosa. If you haven't been there, you should go there because my boys are in the aviation club. So we went on a field trip and they got to fly in a plane. It's amazing. They have World War II planes.
Wait a minute. That's the airfield. Right?
Yeah, in Santa Rosa.
Is there? Yes. Okay. So I have been there, actually. I've been to an air show, and it was actually really impressive.
Yeah. You bring your we need more female aviators.
They went there a couple of years ago. I think they were a little too young to appreciate the grandiosity of it all. But yeah, it was really cool.
And, I did not know there are a lot of people who build planes, like the same, building computers. They build people who build planes. Apparently there's people who like to fly planes and people who like to rebuild old airplanes.
How long does it take you to build a plane?
A lot. And a lot of these airplanes are super expensive to fly at all because the gas is so expensive.
Yeah.
Like they were talking about, there were some decommissioned planes from Canada that it cost the same amount. It was like $800,000 for this plane or something. And that's how much it would cost in gas, $800,000 in gas to get it from Canada to California.
You built it. Now you need to save up the same amount of money just to fly it a little bit. Oof, that's depressing.
We like big planes.
Yes. Thank you. I'm happy you appreciate it. Appreciate the comment. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. Be part of the show, of course, by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter. We're there at Tech News Today TV.
And we are also at technewstoday.reddit.com. Share your thoughts on the stories we discuss or share stories you would like us to discuss. And subscribe to the show at twit.tv/TNT. You'll find all the ways there. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to Brian Burnett for being our TD of the day, du jour. Thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio today, du jour. And thanks to Kevin for the editing of the show today.
Du jour.
Editor du jour. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.